Ever have a game that's special to you? Maybe it's nostalgia, maybe it's a game that just blew you away, or perhaps it was exposure to a new game genre, or maybe it was just an escape from some craziness that was happening in the world. Yeah, it's that game for me, I guess. I've been wanting to play this game since sophomore year, meaning that I've waited about 2 years to play this. But why? Well, I've always been in a Mario sort of household for my elementary school years. When I got into middle school, I swapped to the Xbox life, but then when I got back into high school, I realized that Nintendo was for me and I got myself a Nintendo Switch. This is where the desire to play a game that was very different than what everyone else played first came in. Sure, I dove into Final Fantasy VII a little, but I wanted to go all out. I first discovered Xenoblade through its music, and it's always intrigued me. I heard great reviews about the game, saw Shulk was in Smash. What was I missing? Despair hit when I found out that the game was on the Wii. Then the definitive edition was announced and holy crap. Skip to 2020 being a horrible year and this game came out. RPGs weren't exactly my thing at the time, so I was nervous diving in. What if I didn't like it?
I remember when I thought I wouldn't like this game.
This has become my favorite game of all time, and I have no issue talking about why.
I should review this game one day.
Let's begin with the battle system. It isn't a turn-based combat like you'd expect from most RPGs. In fact, it's one of the most fascinating combat systems I've ever seen. Basically, you have 3 characters attacking the enemy or enemies. 2 of your characters are almost completely controlled by the game. The other one is controlled by you. Your characters are constantly wailing on the enemy with normal attacks, but also have 9 special moves. These are known as arts. Consider these special moves that have different cooldowns. 8 of these arts are your normal arts. They do their thing, and then they have their different cooldown times. These can do some pretty spicy attacks, or basically some status buffs and debuffs. Sometimes you want to hit different colored arts to have different effects. Your final art for the character is the Big Boy Talent art. Out of all of these, Shulk's is the most complex and the most important. Shulk's talent art isn't really just one, but a lot of different abilities and attacks, and it is by far the most important. Shulk's talent art can allow your group to attack mechons, delete enemies' status buffs, or help change the future. By the way, sometimes you can see the future when an enemy is about to go ham on one of your teammates, or you. It's your job to make sure the blow isn't as bad or non-existent, hence changing the future. Now, this may seem like a lot, and to be honest, I probably missed a few things. However, the game's pace is very good and it slowly puts you in the fire. And for the most part, every fight feels very fair, besides for the Zord boss fight in Central Pit. However, I rarely got frustrated with this game. The battle system is super creative and it's easy to learn, but it's very hard to master. You can spend hours trying to figure out how to do every precise little attack with your party and different combos. Somewhat connected to the battle system is collecting stuff. You can collect these random items, and if you fill up a row in your Collectopedia, you get gems. Gems are like little status buffs for each of your characters, whether it's for your armor or weapons. They can be found through just finding them for your Collectopedia, or you can craft them, which can also be fun. You can do quests, get armor, fill skill links, affinity charts, and do a lot more. And I haven't even gotten to the best part of this game. Xenoblade's map is kind of insane. Like, insane. The size and variety of landscapes and locations is absolutely fantastic. Exploring these lands is probably the strongest part of the game in my opinion. It's perfect if you want to explore, but also don't want to go through the struggle of leaving your house.
Hey there, Dylan, also known as Fish Tacos. Hi? Dylan, you want to go on a bike ride? We can socialize in the woods. Alright, Dylan, there's only going to be bears, wolves, poison ivy, Pokemon gyms, homeless guys, mysterious berries, 10-year-old water bottles, some severed limbs, much more! I didn't even get to list the bad things. Dylan, come back! Sweet bananas. That was a close one.
I am completely obligated to gush about Gaur Plains. I mean, there's a reason it's the stage in Smash. The environment and little landmarks are just so fun to explore. You truly immerse yourself in this beautiful world of grass, waterfalls, giant mountains, and other stuff. This makes quests so much fun. It's like a little adventure each time. Of course, it isn't just Gaur Plains that makes this game amazing. It is important to remember that there are other places in the game, like Satoral Marsh, and oh my god. Satoral Marsh may be bland during the day, but during the night, it's just straight up magical, with all the different colors floating around. It's just breathtaking in my opinion. Machina Forest is your typical rainforest, jungly type area, and despite being a somewhat generic theme, it definitely gets a job done, and it's a blast to explore. RFC is definitely a calm, beautiful, oceany type place to explore that first starts off with a beach and then you're on some futuristic floating islands. It's just a calm environment to be in. Now, there are a few other places I didn't talk about, whether I didn't want to spoil anything or they just weren't interesting to talk about. But hey, the places that are not that interesting at least get the atmosphere that they are going for. The spacing of this giant world is just right too. The places you explore feel so big, but you may be surprised about how big they really are when you look at the area map. It isn't actually that big as you would think. This is because of the strange landscape they decided to build on. Not saying all of this is bad though. Like I said, just being there in the different biomes and locations is probably the strongest part of the game.
Hey there, man-child.
Who the hell are you?
Hi, I'm Nick, and I'm not an alcoholic.
What are you doing in my house?
Is that Dunban over there?
Yeah, it is. Want to take turns doing the quest?
Sure. You know, I like this game, but it has one big flaw.
And what's that?
Tora isn't in this game. He's my favorite character from Xenoblade.
Are you sure you're not an alcoholic?
Let's talk about the writing. First, let's take a dive into the characters. If I'm going to be honest, the characters start off a little bit bland, but then they expand it to something really special. Shulk is your main character, and he's just a caring, intelligent boy. However, this is amazing. He isn't some beefy man, king of the realm, or a war hero. He's just a basic, intelligent boy, which is far more interesting and relatable than the examples I talked about when it comes to main characters. Then there is Ryan. He's kind of a big, beefy moron. However, he cares so much about protecting Shulk, as Shulk is pretty scrawny like I mentioned, and some of the stuff he says in the later game lands just right, and he's actually pretty funny. He's like that big, goofy older brother that some people have. Then we have probably my favorite character from this game, Fiora.
Ooh, a female!
Fiora is just a sweetheart, and she keeps things very heartwarming. She's always determined to make sure Shulk is okay, and just in general, the chemistry between Shulk and Fiora is just absolutely fantastic. Dunban is kind of a badass, the big brother of Fiora and a war hero. He's literally fighting enemies with one arm for most of the game. Some of his lines are completely badass, and he just seems like a cool, genuine guy. Sharla is okay, I guess. She's the big sister who lost her lover, but she doesn't really have as much of a spark as the other characters. She's still decent, but sort of faded away as the game progressed. But then we have Melia, and oh boy, Melia.
Ooh, a female!
Melia is the High Entia princess with such a deep character and goes through literal hell most of the time. I really don't want to spoil anything as it's more emotional if you go through blind, but just know this isn't your typical princess. Finally, in your main group, we have Ricky, the legendary hero pawn Furby. Ricky is just adorable. Having these sort of wacky characters can be annoying, but they absolutely nailed him. There's even an extremely heartwarming scene later with him too. Now, there are a bunch of other characters in the game. I just wanted to go over the main ones in your party.
What's up, my dudes?
What the hell are you doing in my house?
Since you didn't want to socialize in the woods, I just decided I'd come inside.
Makes sense.
I love those Bakugan games!
What the hell is wrong with you?
In terms of story, this game really gets a job done, as the story is absolutely fantastic. Now, I don't want to get into too much what the story is about, as I don't want to spoil anything, but I'll discuss how it's done. There is one portion of the game that is pretty slow story-wise, but for the most part, the game's pacing is very well done. And when you get towards the end, oh my god, the story is flipped on its head and it lands super well. In fact, most of the game's story flows very smoothly. Nothing feels too forced, and the pacing is very good, like I said. Trust me, this game will leave your jaw dropped, or sometimes it will just leave you with some warm tingles. Plus, the voice acting is absolutely fantastic.
Imagine finding the game through its music.
Shut up, Tora fan.
Music doesn't matter too much when it comes to a game, which makes the soundtrack even more impressive. Trust me, they could have just played some calm music when walking through Gaur Plains, for example, but they went all out. The soundtrack is dramatic with heavy story points, fits the atmosphere, but amazing when you're exploring land, and I have a good chunk of it on my playlist. Trust me, you're gonna find a lot of tunes you will just love. I should probably also mention that the battle themes are just... ooh. Songs such as Mechanical Rhythm and You Will Know Our Names and even Time to Fight, those songs absolutely slap.
I hope you realize Pyra's a better waifu than Fiora. And I hope you realize I want you to die.
I probably somewhat hinted at this before, but this game looks great. The realms you explore are completely stunning. Not only that, but the characters look great too. It takes the anime style and puts it into 3D, and I'd say they nailed it. Now the cutscenes can be clunky with the character movements, and the lip syncing is a little off because of the English dub, but this isn't much of an issue. The menus look and feel very smooth. All the little pieces in these menus are very easy to understand and are organized very well. To put it short, everything looks absolutely amazing.
You know, the best part of a game review is the melodramatic conclusion.
Look, I'll always love to make Smash videos as competitive Smash Bros is super fun to me. However, the game that is closer to my heart is this game. There were so many times where I was left when my jaw dropped in shock, or I was filled with tingles of joy. I usually don't like to say that there is a best game of all time, as it comes down to which kind of game you like. However, this game completely blew my mind and was worth the wait. Obviously, there is flaws, but no game is perfect. With all of that said, I can say this with comfort. Xenoblade Definitive Edition is the best game ever made. And that's the main game. There's even a little extra story mode you can dive into. Now this extra story isn't exactly my spice, but it's a great option and it doesn't replace the main game. It's just an optional thing to do. So yeah, Xenoblade is my favorite game of all time.
Hey man, I'm sorry about snapping at you earlier, but I'm really glad we can share this experience together. You know, one day, I should review this game.
Wait, but I thought we were in a game review this whole time.
Wait! Wait a minute, are you saying that this whole time we were trapped in a game review? And the long portions where I was talking is where the gameplay would be added in for visual example? And then, what about the part where the other guy just stopped showing up and we're wearing different clothes? Would that mean that this actually took place on 2 separate occasions, but it's edited into one? And then background music will be added in? And what about all the parts where we say, you know? Is that because we're just part of some bad writing? And then this will be uploaded onto a YouTube channel that will get less views than that crappy TikTok show called Attaway General? Is that what you're saying?
A Torah fan always knows.
Hey! Who are you?
No one.
Get back here! Son of a...